Are we live? Are we live?
We are.
John, are we live?
It looks like we're live. You guys are going to get treated to some of the backstage commentary that we normally have because I was super late with technical issues this morning. So Matt, where's your suit? It's not what we discussed.
My name, no. Hold on.
I know.
My name is Mr. ROI. I'm transforming into the suit. I thought about it. I was like, should I put a suit on? But I thought it'd be a little bit too abrupt. I put a little bit of a collar on and
That's true.
a hat to kind of
a dress hat today. Yeah. It's so funny. You guys are getting exposed to mine and Matt's normal world. We were going back and forth over the weekend about a bunch of nonsense stuff, and ROI kept coming up a lot. Hence Mr. ROI, because Matt is defending that fiercely at the moment.
We'll get into it. We're going to start off with our regular, brain wake up coffee, John's reactions, and then we can poke fun at John and many other things that we have lined up. We didn't do a mic test. Can you hear me all right?
I'm hearing you great so far. So this is just crazy.
It's John this time. Oh, look at that. We have a nice little pop-up on the...
Yeah, I just did that. Look at the new features. See, that's how we roll on Wake Up and Deliver. It's like, I wonder what happens when I press this button.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, a little bit too excited for that.
Oh, okay. Just as an FYI, you got to manually do it back and forth. So there you go.
Life comes down to two things: knowing how to get what you want and knowing what's worth wanting. Yeah. Oh, okay, I don't even have my water this morning. I'm John.
Sorry, put that back for a second. Just throw it back up for a second. Whoa. So let's see. Knowing how to get what you want and knowing what's worth wanting. So I think honestly, that puts a lot of pressure on people. I think you're starting their Monday off with like a real rough one. Oh, look at Matt's playing now with the pop-ups and stuff like that. Because I think realistically, most people kind of know what they probably want or feel that they know what they want. I think that a lot of people don't know how they think they can get there, which I think is what holds a lot of people back.
Not to pry into our private conversations, John.
Yeah, right.
But this kind of goes into the comment I made this morning on the episode. I don't know if you saw it. The logistics of rucking, whether it's backpack or vest, and this kind of leads into that conversation. Why? Because what do you really want is a very hard thing to kind of decipher, not only in business but also in personally. So John and I were talking about hobbies and different things to do, and how to get yourself motivated beyond the work level, but even on the personal level. And it was funny, John and I both came to the same kind of conversation where, we enjoy working a little bit too much. And we try to find hobbies that are not in front of our computers and worlds. And it's not as easy as it sounds, but this is knowing what you want kind of leads into that.
I'll preface it so that people just are like, oh, look at these guys, this bunch of idiot workaholics or something like that. Not necessarily like that. I think, one thing that both Matt and I have in common is the fact that we get very interested in things. And right now, a lot of the work that we're doing has provided like this huge green field of different things, right, that are kind of connected to it. But from some people's perspective, right, that like, because it can be tied back to work or something that you're doing for work, people are like, oh, you're always working. And it's like, well, not really, because the thing is, I don't have a particular use case for this, or it's not like a client wants me to do that, but it's just like, the spider web of networked ideas and kind of connected things that branches out that way.
Yeah, like the AI things and all the different things that we do is always work related, but it's also
even this content, right? We talk a lot, about different content type things, doing the show. Like some people are like, oh, that you're doing it for work. It's not like we're making, we're not out on the street doing TikTok dance videos, at least not yet. But you know what I mean? So,
but what's the ROI, John? What's the ROI of it?
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you get a lot of people tell you that they've got some pretty wild ROI because they started posting dance videos with their product in the background.
and that comes to the conversation of does the ROI bring value of posting often and content on LinkedIn? I know I've slowed down recently since the beginning of the year, because not that the ROI wasn't there, because it's good to have, posts, but the right type of posts. And I think you do a lot of great posts, John. Like some of your videos that you put up there are fantastic, and I don't tell you enough, but let it be recorded and known. But I think there's a lot of people that put up a lot of posts that are just not. I'm not saying that you can't put up personal posts, but some of the posts are just they're just bashing, or they're doing different things that aren't bringing value. I think, and it gets lost in the noise, and it depreciates the value of the LinkedIn that used to be. That's my take.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I do get that there's a pretty strong I do get that there's a pretty strong, vibe that people are like, oh, authentic, be authentic, and all of these things. And I don't disagree with that. I think that you can definitely be obviously authentic while also faceted, and I'll put it that way. And this is a conversation that I used to have all the time with my teams, and even my girlfriend now, we talk about these different things. Is that like this concept that authenticity means that you have to be the same all the time, no matter what. I personally don't believe. I think that I think that people are multifaceted, that they have all of these different parts of themselves, and they have different sort of things about themselves that will come out in different contexts and different environments. And I don't think one is less authentic than the other, but I can most certainly tell you that the way that, you and I would behave, or I would be with you as we're walking into a client meeting, for example, is not the same way than when we're at the restaurant necessarily, or having some of those other types of like different conversations. Right. And I don't think that means that you're inauthentic. I just think that you allow different parts of yourself to be more front and center at different times that are relevant and related to the context.
And I'll add, it's okay to be wrong too, and go back on your opinion and admit that you're wrong, but not to digress into this whole other world of how we bring it back to logistics and businesses. You can be wrong sometimes, and your opinion can change, and how you approach these problems do change over time, right? Like one thing I'm going to call out on us just now is we've used the same picture for Wake Up and Deliver. However, John and I always talk about, you should be, using AI more and do different things. We could have generated and done things a little bit different. There's things that people can always do, and they're very good at preaching it, but not always at doing those things. And what we try to do here is kind of talk about ways to improve and make things better for everybody. But we don't always subscribe to what we say. We always try, but we make mistakes like everybody else.
Well, I think at the end of the day, there's always an appreciation too, that no matter what you're doing, right? And the best thing for your personal life as well as your business life is to appreciate that you only have so much time, and there will be a never-ending list of things that you can do. So you got to just either prioritize or focus on the places that are going to have bigger ROI, bigger impact.
Mr. ROI.
Mr. ROI. I should show you. I don't know. We were having some fun. I got Google to. No, it was ChatGPT actually that did that one.
I'll bring it up for context for everybody.
Oh wow, there you go. Yeah, I had them create Mr. ROI for Matt as we were talking on. I think was it Saturday or whatever it was, or Friday. I don't remember now. But yeah, so it was funny. Anyways, lots of interesting things going on. Well, Matt is looking to bring that stuff up. I think we'll probably have to at least give a couple of minutes to the big news this morning from the US. I think that's going to be all through the feed today. And then we can get into some other things for sure.
Is it big news?
Wow.
It's talk. I haven't seen anything that is confirmed yet.
No, it's like the articles are all coming out and stuff like that now, that a deal, some type of deal was made between Canada and the US. China and the US, related to tariffs, and there's going to be a bit of a scale back on both sides, at least temporarily. So the US from 145% down to 30% on Chinese imports. The Chinese will go from 125% down to 10%. on U.S. imports into their market.
What's the ROI?
There's Mr. ROI according to ChatGPT, everyone, just so you know. Anyways, yeah, so those are there. The important thing, at least from the US side, is that there's the other one that I tried to. It didn't work as well. Trying to really blend it. Anyways, you could tell it was inspired by Pitbull, who's Mr. Worldwide, but I like the second one that became more like Matt. So
I thought it was John at first.
he did think it was me. I should have let him roll with that. It did kind of fit the bill. Yeah, so 30 days while they continue to negotiate. Probably the more notable thing was that there was obviously no talk or no change to the repealed de minimis access for China goods into the US. So that's probably big news from an e-commerce side, which is catching a lot of attention.
Well, not just e-commerce, it's all around commerce. But what I struggle with on this commentary is I thought the tariffs were what was going to reduce the income tax and the ability to have zero income tax in the US. So if we're bringing back the tariffs down, we're not going to be collecting as much money. So does that mean that we're going back to zero income tax? Like, this is a lot of the messages. That's what I'm saying. I don't believe it yet, because a lot of the messages that we're hearing is very confusing. A lot of the things that were supposed to happen overnight haven't happened. That's why I'm questioning it, because until I see those boats floating over and unloaded at dock, there's a lot of 4 weeks of play that can still happen, and those factories have to be rebooted up to start producing. It's not as seamless as everybody makes it out. So I still suspect 3 to 4 weeks of chaos in our world before it kind of normalizes to something.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff there. I mean, I did see, sorry, just on the quickly on your income tax thing, they did quietly also mention that now they're looking to tax the rich a little bit more, kind of going back up to some of the levels that they had pulled back down, which, I mean, like, boo hoo, when it's like, if you make over $2.5 million a year, we're going to go up to this. It's like, well, okay, no problem. Anyway, so that's where they're thinking of getting some money now. But I did see something interesting, and I don't know if you saw this, but I saw, and I wanted to look into it. I saw someone who was posting incoming port shipments, right, by week through May. And obviously, current week was quite low. This week was going to be quite low. But then the third week was a huge surge. Like, it was kind of like something like 70-odd thousand containers. And I think it was like mid 80s or something like that, or low 80s. And then all of a sudden it was over 100,000 coming in, which was a huge surge, both obviously year over year and whatever. So it makes you feel that there was some thought and some thinking that there was going to obviously be a change. I think the other big news, though, or at least comment that seemed to not be mentioned, was that anyone that has imported goods and paid the 145% tariff, or paid any of these additional tariffs over this 30% that it's going to be, there was no comment of any kind of rebate or anything like that, which I'm not surprised about, to be quite honest with you. I don't see the government getting into all of the challenges of being like, oh, you paid, get rebates, doing all the calculations like that. I'm not surprised. For the big businesses, they survive. It's honestly really sad, though, what's happening in the US to the small businesses, because they are just getting sort of jerked around like crazy, and they most certainly don't have the cash reserves or the cash flow to support that.
Was it this one, John?
No, it wasn't. I'll have to try to find it, maybe put it in the comments after. But I wanted to validate it anyways, like the data, because I was like, why? Like, that seems really strange. Like, what's happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think a lot of it is also a rush to get as much through, because you don't know of the uncertainty. Get it in the certainty that you know. But
yeah, it could have been. It could be all kinds of things. So anyways, those are a couple of interesting things that's going over. That's probably the big sort of like tariff type news that obviously, I think, like I said, everyone's going to be watching this morning. What about you? What caught your attention over the weekend or over starting the day?
This week is Blitz Week. I think is that what it's called. I always forget the name of it. It's the DOT Blitz Week for safety. If you guys aren't following around, May 13th, 14th, and 15th, you're going to see a tightening of capacity out there because a lot of drivers prefer not to be on the road when they're blitzing everybody. I don't know if that says that are they the safest, aren't they not the safest, but a lot of drivers prefer not to be scrutinized as they're driving. The big one out there are some of the places that said they're going to do language tests. Are they going to have that being blitzed as well as they're driving through the state? So there's certain states that I don't know if I showed you that, John. You're making a little bit of a what the hell is going on conversation, but
no,
the
language thing. I hadn't heard of language requirements before, so that one surprised me a little bit. But
yeah, so I forget which state it was. I think it was somewhere in the Midwest requirement for CLD. Anyway, so it was a language requirement that you had to be able to speak English, and if you weren't, they were going to report you. And that was a big issue in the last little bit. So I'm curious if they're going to be looking at that this week or not. I'll be curious to see here. Let me pull it up while I'm trying to distract myself.
Interesting.
This was a few weeks ago.
I mean, I don't think it's like a terrible thing. I mean, I guess if you're going to have like bills of lading and you're supposed to be able to communicate with people, like, oh wow, I gotta love these websites that just want to like hit you nonstop with pop-ups. But like, yeah, it's interesting, right? To get to the point where it's like, hey, you gotta be able to do all of these things and whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, the working force of truckers have always been. Typically has been a lot of immigrants or people that it's having a harder time to work in an office environment that have come overseas. And that's usually been the case for both Canada and the United States. And it's pretty prevalent in Europe as well, where you have a lot of, in England, you've had a lot of Romanians, Polish, and Bulgarian drivers. And the main drivers of Europe are usually Eastern Europeans. So the same thing kind of applies to the US and Canada, where it's not always the second, third generation Canadians and Americans that are driving truck. Mm-hmm. It's usually these weak, I wouldn't call it weak, sorry, maybe wrong choice of words, still learning English drivers that don't have the proficiency as people would think.
But that's because, if people really want to be honest about it, is that, like, call it for what it is. There is not one, well, I shouldn't say there's not one. I'll just put it more as a question. Think of yourself, think of your friends, your family, like, your cousins, your brothers, whatever. How many of them are, second, third, fourth generation Americans, Canadians, whatever? How many of them are raising their kids and saying, I think you should be a truck driver? Honestly. It's not happening, and that's a huge problem. The trades are having the same thing. We don't tell people that they should become carpenters or electricians or like welders. Like, we don't advocate for that. I know when you and I were growing up, because we're kind of in that same bucket, there was a huge shift into like doctors, lawyers, computer science, like all of this stuff. Like, it was just like, if you're not doing that, like, it's not worth it, so to speak. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's interesting how other countries do it, because I know specifically in Europe and Germany, the schooling system rotates with, they see the need being a lower position of, they don't have enough trades. So the school system starts pushing people to take on more trades and showing that you can make a lot more money, and that's how they do it. In our school system, I know I've been in school forever, but like you said, everybody used to tell us, get a university degree and you'll be making over six figures. But they didn't specify what. Everybody just went to university for God knows what reason, and that's where we have a lot of, like, I have an arts degree. Not saying I don't like my arts degree, but it doesn't bring. I should have got one in supply chain, which I got my CITT. But there should be more of that focus of what is needed and what businesses would profit from as the labor force gets into that position that able to support them better. But what a segue we are on! Like, we're a little bit of a ways from logistics, but we're still there.
Well, not really. I mean, just in the sense though, is because the thing is that, like, you drive on any highway you go to any store, like the reality is almost everything that you're seeing was moved or got to that store or whatever on a transportation like truck, like on a commercial vehicle or whatever. And everyone expects everything to keep going. We expect high efficiency, high reliability, technology these days. We expect low cost, which usually can only come from operational excellence, and even to a point, like we expect all of these things. But then at the same time too, we don't value the position of like what it actually takes to get done. And then to your point, the reason why a lot of like immigrants or new citizens or whatever, however you kind of want to think about that, is because those jobs, the barrier to entry is so significantly reduced just because of the fact that nobody else wants to do it. And then honestly, let's also be real. It's not easy. It's not easy being like especially like a long haul transportation driver, because you're away from your family, for example. You're spending long hours on the road. It's super isolating. I mean, it's honestly not the greatest for your health, like just being that immobile all the time.
It's a hard job, and they do it for 11 to 13 hours straight. And you have people not like me, but people in a broker situation calling you every 15 minutes. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why aren't you there yet? Speed up. But doing it safely at the same time. It's any facet of any job is difficult. Let's be honest. And logistics doesn't always just sum up to being a truck driver. Whether it's waste management, there's a vast amount of logistics into that. People management of logistics, we don't often talk about that. All those jobs are quite challenging. Make sure queues are done correctly at Disney is all part of logistics, and that takes training and education. But we don't have a lot of that focus. Same with city planning. Like you look at a city sometimes, going, who designed this? That was logistics job, and someone didn't do it right because they didn't take into consideration the things that they should have, right? Yeah. And I know this. I find this actually funny enough. I was recently looking at some drawings of a warehouse, and right away it was like, this is a horrible positioning of a warehouse. Like I'm like they're like, oh yeah, the driver can do a 3-point turn, no problem, back into the into the door. I'm like, this is so tight. There's no capacity. There's no room. I'm like,
it's like he's got to like jackknife it in.
Like, yeah, I'm like, this is horrible. But it was one position saying it's easy, no problem. Look, on a drawing, I can do it, versus the reality of the situation as well. That's why, when you are doing drawings for any warehousing, anything like that, you should ask a driver, funny enough, if it's feasible from a practical sense. Because there's often times I've been at warehouses, docks, even stores where it's like, yeah, no problem, the clearance is great, but you only got like 3 inches, or the truck is not the standard size, and you've ruined the whole position of that.
Okay, so here's two examples, okay, from my own personal experience, and this is stuff that, like, if you haven't worked in the industry, like you don't even think about, like, these issues that come up all the time. So first, there was I guess I'll say, because it doesn't really matter in this there was a Loblaw store, okay, they would get delivered to, and they were in an urban part of the city, so not the easiest to get into, but they were actually, the way that the store was built, they had a loading dock area with, I think, 3 doors. And it was far enough back that, like, obviously once the tractor was kind of backing in, it was all good. The problem is that they had to come up the street, down the street one way. And then they would have to really turn, like really jackknife, to get the trailer around. And there was this big tree on the other side of the road. No word of a lie. This tree had so many scars from just that friction point of a few drivers hitting it to get in. And then that was challenging. On the flip side, when I was in the food industry, in one of my manufacturing plants, we kept a bunch of handling equipment for the drivers, the power walkies and stuff like that we would send out on delivery, in its own trailer that was permanently set up in the yard, had its own power, lighting, like everything like that, so that it wouldn't congest the dock with these guys loading the trailer. The problem with it was, though, because of the fact that we had installed it almost on a real dead straightaway, like you could really easily back up to this trailer, which everyone thought, like, oh, this is so great, you could just easily back up to it. Do you know how much money I spent fixing this trailer and trying to put guards in place because they would hit it way too hard? It was insane.
How much?
No, I can't tell you how much, because someone's going to be embarrassed when you hear how much money it was. But my point is that like, it's the same situation, two different things. And to your point, there's like this, there's very often like a little sweet spot, and on both sides, there's a lot of friction. You know, the guys, it was too hard to get in. On the other side, it was way too easy to get in, and they were just smashing this trailer to no end, because, you know, it's 4 a.m., it's 5 a.m., they're tired, they're trying to start their day, they run and just slammed into this thing all the time. It was insane.
Yeah, and I had numerous of those backing up in tight corners, underground parking at malls when I was doing Target deliveries when they were in Canada, and some of the store locations were all one-way streets or no truck routes, or only one truck route was available in, and it was horrible. We had to change time. Anyways, but it also applies when you're developing your warehouse. So it's not even just about the loading docks, but when you have your racking set up in your warehouse, it makes a big difference. I remember one of the times we were setting up racking in one of the warehouses that we were doing, we had pillars every so often. And when the drawings came back from the racking guys, they put one of the pillars right in the middle between the two rackings. They're like, "Oh, you got room." I'm like, "Guys, but how are we gonna reach these positions if that pillar is right in the middle?" But if we moved the racking to accommodate that, you'd lose a heck of a lot of skid spaces on the one end, because everything had to shift and it was outside of the norm that should have been there, right? So a lot of these things do matter in how you kind of perceive it. It might look good on a drawing, but there's a lot of practicality that you wouldn't see it from an engineering or from an architect's point of view. They really got to get down to the nitty gritty, position of a driver or a tradesperson to understand, like, does this make practical sense? I grew up working construction. The amount of times that drawings didn't make sense when I was doing some flooring was ridiculous, like it was just absurd.
But you know why though? But okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a quasi rant, because it's a pet peeve of mine. But this is the same thing. This is the same thing that's happening with all of these SaaS platforms and all of these logistics or supply chain tools.
Shots fired.
Because quite frankly, a huge percentage of them are built by people that have never seen a dock, never seen a truck, never been in a warehouse or whatever. They just think that like, ooh, the TAM of the logistics industry is X. I should just go in there because nobody's building for it, and I'll become a billionaire unicorn. And it's like, and they build these tools that they can do the math, or they can make a beautiful website or UI, but they don't, not all of them, but they don't really understand the things that matter.
Do you have to be an expert in a set position to be able to build something against it? And I think you said the flip side of this recently as well. Be like, I don't have to be an expert to have an opinion on it, right?
I don't think that you have to be an expert, but then you do have to then have the mentality to appreciate what you don't know, and you have to ask a lot of questions, and you have to be very inquisitive and very curious. So it's like I just get frustrated by the ones where you can be like, "Who did you speak to about this?" And they're kind of like, "Well, we just kind of
we went through Reddit and found this in the forums."
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying, like these kinds of things.
But to your point, the SaaS model and a lot of these things are having a big shakeup right now because of people who are industry first minded, have the ability now with AI to start fixing these problems. And I've had a few conversations, you and I have talked about it, where people are looking for experts in the field's opinion and how to build it now because they can do it themselves. Oh. They can. You can do it with vibe coding. You can do it with, I think, on John's newsletter, which was again, you get 2 plugs from me this week. Holy crap!
I know. John, this is great.
The newsletter had a great commentary on building it yourself, and it was I can't pronounce it, the 989 or however you call it.
And just pronounce it like the letters N8N.
N8N.
8. N8 N
789. Got it.
Oh my God. Actually, I'm going to tell you something right after this, but yeah, finish.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that there's the ability for experts now to be able to develop a lot of these things where the mobile interface, the things that look fancy in the front aren't as important anymore because anybody can really do it. It's really the background information that is running and maintaining it. So the AI that you're using, if someone's just using one LLM, it's not the best way to do it. You should have like a whole bunch of them lined up, and as they develop and as they move, and uses a pay per use versus just subscribing to one software that's just using one that's giving you a single output. You should really be contending and figure out which AI works best for the function that you're doing. This AI might not work the best for, dispatching, but this one might work best for accounting, and this one might work the best for, resource planning. And then you should really be utilizing different AIs for their strengths and weaknesses versus using a blanket software. Go ahead, John. I know you're building up.
I'm vibrating on this one because so to your point, that like the PDF thing I talked about, right? And making your own PDF reader, that alone, just that is actually two different AI models. You would use something like ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropic, like you would use something maybe as the base, even Mistral maybe as their main model. And then you have like the Mistral OCR, which is another sort of model, AI based model, but that's just two for a PDF thing. But to your point about like these platforms and spending money all over the place on these things, I did my own thing because I needed to parse a bunch of PDF documents. And honestly, the pricing that people charge is stupid. That Mistral thing is $1 USD for every 1,000 pages. Like that's nothing. Like honestly, it's absolutely nothing. Why am I going to go pay someone $50 a month, or why am I going to have a restriction on no documents bigger than 50 pages when the Mistral one's like, oh, the document can't, you can be 1,000 pages. Like you can't send it more than 1,000 pages at once or something like that for $1. And on top of it, and I was going to put this in the newsletter, but then I was like, oh, I don't know if enough people will go into it. But I set up and here's another thing that I think, just as an example, free tool or platform that people should be getting into to help make their operations better. Google hosts what's called Google Colab, which I know it's going to sound super technical and whatever, but essentially it's an online Python environment that you can go in, run Python scripts. It's kind of like an online Jupyter notebook more than anything else. That's actually probably, someone's going to say that's exactly what it is, which is probably true.
And a lot of people are going to say, what is that?
Yeah. So Google Jupyter notebooks and then Google Colab, I took that script from the Python script with the PDF parser and just put it into this. And now you have this like direct access to run all of your own PDFs whenever you want, to whatever degree you want. Like, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of a cost, but I mean, what you and I were talking about, and this is where I really think the future is, monthly fees for your tech is going to die because everything is going to shift just to a pay-per-use model, because there's so many different things that you can plug into and there's so many different ways that you can transact, that if you're paying $1,000 a month or $500 a month for that SaaS tool, you're probably wasting your money, because why would you not just pay for the PDFs that you parse? And why would you not just pay for the code that you generate or whatever? And that's really going to be the future. And what I called in the newsletter, which I stole from someone in my network who talks about it in a founder context, but the non-technical operator and the rise of this person that can use all of these tools, but is not a computer science type, data science type person.
And on that note, because now we're over 5 minutes and we are very conscious of your time, I'm not going to let you have your weekend to round up, John. I must hold you to your time. But that was great insight and great thoughts. As always, please always join us on Wake Up and Deliver. See you next week. Oh, it's episode 19. Never said that. Episode 20 next week.
Squeak it in.
Squeak it in. Always check out John's newsletter. Always check out what we have out there for everybody. Always great insights. We'll see you next week.
Awesome.